This video is brought to you by people who like, share, and subscribe to this channel. You can also support my work by buying me a coffee. The Fellowship of Guelphissauga continues, with the mayor searching for European inspiration in the streets of Paris and the swamps of Toronto. After getting booted from the homeless hotels and burned out of the forest, the tent city has returned to the downtown core. It caught the attention of the residents of the Brant Avenue apartments, since they might end up having to join them in getting renovicted. Meanwhile, the mayor split town to find European inspiration in Paris, France, at the Global Covenant of Mayors meeting. He also tried to flex his strong mayor powers with his global friends in Toronto to launch their ironically named Solve the Crisis campaign. Can Carly of Klassen and the Elder Elves do anything about the Shire's housing cost crisis? And will the mayor get help from his global friends? In St. George's Square downtown, the burned-out homeless man was doing his best to survive. He had spent his last $5 on instant noodles and was eating them raw from the package. But he wasn't the only one surviving in the square, since the homeless hotels have booted more than a dozen people from their unfunded doors. They were being fed by Sir Edward of Bench as their numbers continued to grow, with more renovictions looming on the horizon. On the east end of the Shire, the housing cost crisis has hit home for the residents of the Brant Avenue apartments. As one of the remaining rent-controlled apartments in town, the people living there are facing renoviction. Most of them received notice 2 weeks ago that their landlord was planning major renovations set to take between 6 to 9 months. But they're pushing back against the sketchy landlord and his shell corporations with the help of a legal advocacy group called Acorn. According to this group, there's been a 300% increase in renovictions in the last 7 years, and they're familiar with that game. While buildings built before 2018 are rent-controlled in the lands of Ontario, that rent control doesn't apply to vacant units, allowing landlords to jack up the rent to whatever they want, according to Acorn. What ends up happening is the unit is advertised, and you can't tell if it's your unit, because any unit in the building could be up for rent. And then new tenants move in and can't legally be evicted, they explained. So then you're stuck. They've increased the rent for the new tenant, but the old tenant is displaced. Acorn will be hosting a Zoom meeting for the tenants on September 12th to inform them of their rights and how to fight back. Meanwhile, in the mayor's office downtown, he was also getting letters and planning meetings. He attempted to flex his strong mayor powers at the Shire's housing cost crisis, but he's had limited success. The mayor booked yet another meeting to discuss solutions, and people were already writing him letters in advance. With only the powers of municipal taxation and regulation, some people supported the mayor's actions, whereas others did not. Gordon of Truscott backed up the mayor in his corner and wrote, "It's not as if the mayor could reach into a secret bag and bring out all the money necessary to build suitable structures to accommodate those in need." Whereas someone else wrote a short letter to the mayor about him needing a backbone instead of backing him. When did those in our municipal government decide not to deal with issues that affect us all? Mainly the encampment downtown. Either they need some backbone, or we need a new mayor and city councilors who have the courage to deal with issues that may not be acceptable to some, they wrote. The last letter on the mayor's desk was from David of Gibson, calling him out for his virtue signaling. He compared the mayor to a French aristocrat in Charles Dickens' A Tale of Two Cities, and criticized his upcoming public space bylaw meeting. That hardly matters. This isn't the mayor's genuine effort to address these issues. It never has been. It's a calculated political stunt. Scapegoating the victims of complex social problems is a centuries-old political tactic. Mayor Guthrie will vote for this bylaw regardless of its actual form or the good evidence against it, he wrote. After tossing 2 of the 3 letters in the trash, the mayor resumed his game of European-inspired SimCity. He flew all the way to France to attend the Global Covenant of Mayors for Climate and Energy Summit. The mayor's global friends at Bloomberg Philanthropies covered the travel costs, like they did for his trip to Dubai last year. He got wined and dined like a French aristocrat alongside 40 to 50 other global mayors from countries such as Argentina and Lebanon. They shared ideas on mitigating the impacts of climate change and adapting to new norms for gender equality efforts. The mayor hoped this trip will be as successful as the last one to Dubai, which resulted in $50,000 in global money going towards youth climate action in the Shire. All of this, the funding, the networking, the knowledge transfer, has been invaluable, said the mayor. I'm very honored to be a part of this, he declared as he ate his cake. With his stomach full and brainwashed, the mayor returned home from across the pond. On the long flight back, he had the opportunity to chat with other mayors from the lands of Ontario and discuss the housing cost crisis. They were facing similar problems in their towns, and so they agreed to collude to solve the crisis. The big city mayors announced their campaign to tackle the humanitarian crisis of rising homelessness and encampments. Instead of turning off the immigration taps, their big city solution is to have more government with the creation of an exclusive ministry to tackle homelessness. However, that wasn't the last meeting the mayor will have to attend. He also has to visit with his local Yimby friends who are eyeing up downtown. From the swamps of Toronto, Skyline Retail Asset Management has set a proposal to build a 14-story Tower Sauron in the heart of downtown. According to the Shire's official plan, they would have to follow the rule of the ward and keep the building to 6 stories in height, like most people want. But Skyline hopes no one will push back against them breaking the rule of the ward at their public meeting booked for September 10th. If someone like Susan of Watson shows up to protest, then their orcish plans might get foiled. Can Carly of Klassen and the Elder Elves do anything about the Shire's housing cost crisis? And will the mayor get help from his global friends? Stay tuned here to see. This video is brought to you by brighttutoring.ca. Don't let school get in the way of your education. Book a tutoring session today at brighttutoring.ca.